Good.
Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Sports Wrap, George Ringer. We're in the middle of the madness.
Yeah, oh, it is crazy too.
We got a week of the college stuff going full force. We've got, I don't know, we've got a full show. So let's not be screwing around, Tim. Let's get
we can slip right through.
So you want to talk men's basketball first?
Let's go men's basketball.
Let's talk men's basketball.
My recent basketball.
I had to bring my bracket with so I could. Not that I don't have it figured out, but so. Give me your impression. What did you see in the first 4 days of the tournament?
Well, it was just like anything else. It says there's going to be 4 or 5 double digits into the Sweet 16. What do we have? Four double digits, and of course, and there's at least one darling in there, and probably 2. And so
Michigan is not a darling.
Michigan is not a darling. No. Michigan.
I'm surprised that they're there. I say?
Oh yeah.
I think I did say it on the show last week that it seems like one of those 11 or 12 teams that play in the first 4 make it through to the Sweet 16, and
you didn't kick to 16 beating.
I didn't think it was beating
number 1. Yeah.
No, I didn't think it would be there.
Yeah.
But Michigan came through, and they're not playing.
It was amazing. I looked at that St. Peter beating Kentucky, and under any other circumstances, I'd be standing up and cheering and applauding. But that just imploded about one half of my bracket. On the other hand, they were going to run into what I think is a much improved, playing very well Purdue team, and I think that they had their sights on Kentucky, and I think they would have given them a shot, if not beaten them. I hope they're not looking past St. Peter, because St. Peter, this team, you get to be in the Sweet 16, you think you can win.
Well, yeah, you're thinking we're only two games away from going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
I would be okay. I was obviously shocked that they beat Kentucky. I wasn't as shocked that they beat Murray State, excuse me. But nobody's looking past St. Peter right now. Mostly specifically Purdue, and Purdue's got to be sitting there going, look, we've got an 8 and a 4 on the other side. We've got our chance. We can't blow this, and they can't be looking forward to the next game. They got to be taking care of business.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. They can't. This is an opportunity Purdue doesn't ordinarily get, and they really don't. They want to relish it, take care of it, work for it. I mean, they got some people.
Okay, so St. Peter, we agree, played some pretty good basketball last week.
Have been amazing.
Did North Carolina? I mean, did they play the basketball of their season last week? Because I mean, North Carolina isn't North Carolina anymore. They're not Dean Smith, North Carolina anymore.
No, but if you notice towards the end of the season, they knocked off. They won their conference championship besides beating Duke, and and I think they beat Duke at Duke.
I think they did beat Duke at the end of the season. That could very well be.
And so they were, they were primed to do something. You're right. At the beginning of the season, North Carolina, who are they? Hey, I'll tell you what, they're back.
Well, I never liked North Carolina. Okay, let me just state that outright. And now I really hate them because they knocked Baylor out, and I had picked Baylor to win the whole caboodle, and they screwed up my bracket bad.
Well, they did. If that's the case.
I shall never forgive North Carolina. I will hold a grudge against the Tar Heels.
Well, as long as we're there with Baylor, their whole basketball program, men and women, had to go home because South Dakota upset the number 2 seed Baylor Bears at Baylor, Texas.
And that's kind of the other thing. The men's tournament is neutral site.
Yeah.
And so you don't have that home court advantage. But in the women's tournament, Iowa choked. I'm going to just say it, folks.
They did.
Iowa women choked. The Iowa men, speaking of teams that both basketball teams choked, Iowa, my goodness, wins the Big Ten tournament and then lays an egg last week in the first round. And then, like you mentioned, Baylor, got to be feeling pretty down about themselves. Of course, they don't have their old women's coach, Kim Mulkey, I think. Mulkey, am I saying that right, folks? Mulkey. Anyway, she's not there anymore. I had forgotten about that she left for LSU, or her home state school, and so Yeah.
So South Dakota picks up Michigan. Is that on Saturday, did you say?
Saturday at 5:30.
Saturday at 5:30.
I'll hold it up to the light so I can see it a little bit better. Make sure it is the 26th at 5:30 against Michigan.
No, I tell you right now, I'm going to be watching that game. Of all the games that I watched over the weekend, and I don't know how many that was, but the South Dakota Baylor game, women's game, that was exciting as can be. It really, really was. And they're all Minnesotans kids.
Well, Sunday was kind of a crazy day. We got home from the cities from watching hockey that we'll talk about a little bit later. And I sat down, and of course, about the time we got home, UMD and Ohio State were playing for a national championship in women's hockey. So I started watching the second period of that, and everything else that was on the NCAA basketball, blah, blah. And so finally I'm like, okay, it's halftime. I'm going to have to take a peek to see what South Dakota's doing because George is going to want to talk about it on the show. And I turned it on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they've got this thing wrapped up. It was halftime, and they were up by 15 points or whatever it was. And then I thought Baylor was starting to twist them in a little bit.
Well, they got a very talented basketball team, and they
And South Dakota went scoreless for almost first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, and it looked like they were getting tight. The legs were getting tired. Jump shots were short. But when they got to the free throw line, they were making free throws.
They were hitting their free throws, and I tell you right now, Hannah Spurgeon is a two-time, if not three-time, Summit League Defensive Player of the Year, and that whole team, at least the first quarter of the game, played. I mean, they were glue, and Baylor couldn't take a breath, and it put them on their heels. And although they had a nice surge and they had an opportunity maybe to win, it was that initial shot, and I mean it was 11-0, and I mean South Dakota went bam, bam, bam on threes, and from then on it was a matter of playing defense, and they played hard defense. The center, Baylor, 6'6", so there was a lot of. But I didn't know this about Hannah. She has an arm span that's a whole lot more than 6'2". She has like a 6'5", 6'6" arm span. And when you take a look at the woman, she has very long arms. She's got a beautiful basketball build, and and she uses it.
Yeah, South Dakota. Yeah, the Cinderella story. I keep updating my phone, folks, because Cherry Tigers are playing in the state basketball tournament against Nevis. They're up by 11 points with 2 minutes and 12 seconds to go. So, of course, that's an old county school,
Yeah.
And it's been 25 years since Cherry went to the state tournament, and my cousins had played on that team. And so there was lots of posts on Facebook this week about the Cherry Tigers this and the Cherry Tigers that. And they are the number 5 seed, and looks like they're going to take care of business here against the number 4 seed Nevis. And that means that they'll get number 1 Hayfield in the semis on Friday, but we'll see how that all plays out.
I remember coaching against Cherry for several years, and there were a whole bunch of blonde girls would come run out and just kick your butt. They were tough kids, really loved playing basketball and worked hard. And I says, they were amazing young women.
Well, they've got 3 Awesome boys.
These are awesome. I knew the Awesome girls.
And they got a 10th and 9th, I think a 10th and 9th and a 7th grader. And last time I looked, the 10th grader, who's almost got 2,000 points for his career, had, he had 23 points the last time I looked, but I won't look too far. Well, he's only got 30 now, so he's kind of leading the way. And so, yeah, it's always good to see a northern school.
Well, we got to show Rusey those statistics. The kids can still play.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's get back to the men's tournament.
Yeah.
You mentioned about Gabe Kelser and Iowa State.
Yeah, and they put the hurt on Wisconsin, which I know that would break your heart.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I got
it did hurt my bracket a little bit, but
it did. But I understand the one about the only Badger that was able to carry through was Brad Davidson, and he says he really played a remarkable game. It was his last game, and he showed it. And in terms of, and this come of course from Rusey. Rusey says he's the only one that didn't quit. So but on the other hand, here's Gabe Kelser, former Gopher, one you hated to see go. In fact, you didn't know whether he would or not. A hit and miss Gopher. Well,
A lot of miss.
He's not a hit and miss cyclone, I'll tell you. He got 22 against Wisconsin. I don't know how many boards. He is turned into one of their premier stars. And in fact, if you take a look, Minnesota has more than a few premier stars.
Absolutely.
On both sides, women and men.
Scary part about Iowa State winning, they're an 11. They're going to play a number 10, Miami. So an 11 or a 10 is going to make it to the Elite 8.
Isn't that something?
In that bracket, of course, 1 versus 4, Kansas versus Providence, and that other side of the other part of the bracket there. And I watched the Friars in the Big East tournament, and I sold myself that they couldn't win, that they weren't whatever. And then, of course, Mike Bolsted's a graduate of Providence, and he convinced me that I should have picked them for at least one game, and I did. And then I had picked Iowa, who choked. So anyway, that part of the bracket. If you go up above, Arizona and Houston's got a nice team.
They do.
And of course, you've got Michigan and an 11 up there, and Villanova the 2, and I've got Villanova still going to the Final Four. So I'm kind of happy to see that they're still in there. I don't think I have any chance to win any proverbial potato chips to win anything, but obviously we've got that going on. Like I said, Michigan the big surprise. Of course, UCLA comes through. I didn't know if I should trust UCLA, but they look good.
They do look good, and they still run the court well. So you just don't know about UCLA. I was a little bit surprised at the other California school, kind of USC. Yeah,
Who are you dang Trojans? I knew I shouldn't trust you guys.
No, I kind of
shame on me. Never. Anyway, but and then of course, if you go to the upper part of the bracket on the left-hand side, Gonzaga. I don't know what they were doing, folks. They didn't want to play for the first 30 minutes of either of their games, really, just enough to hang in there. But
well, you know who pulled them around on that, of course, was Time and Timmy and Holmgren. And they should be. And they should be. So. Yeah, Timmy's he's a senior, isn't he, Timmy?
Yep.
So he's been around forever, and Holmgren, he's one of those Minnesota superstars, and but he still needs 20, 30 pounds.
Still needs some weight, I agree.
He was getting tossed around there pretty good.
But that portion of the bracket, that region went 1, 2, 3, 4. All the top seeds made it through, and of course Duke had to. I don't know. Did you see Mike Krzyzewski after the game in the press conference?
No.
He was near tears. I think he realized how close it was to the end of his career, and his boys came through. Michigan State, I think, was up ahead 5. I think with about 2+ minutes to go. And
it was really a good game, and you saw the two coaches, guys that have known each other for many, many years, and they know. I mean, Tom Izzo's going to be exactly where Ceausescu is, except Ceausescu's got 1,000 more games he's won. He's had an incredible career, but I hesitate to point out he's been in some incredible basketball communities.
Oh,
and and it's kind of like, I think those are some of the things that Coach Knight forgot about, and that Indiana would forgive him for all his skills and stuff, but they always remembered that he was from Ohio.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's very true.
It's just some of those things. The coaching staff and all the rest of that he has put out. I mean, he's just been a father figure to all kinds of coaches, all kinds of basketball players. He has affected a certain population more than just about any teacher you'd ever want to know, for longevity, for the caliber of people that he's produced, and has he made mistakes? Nobody coaching at that level cannot not make mistakes. It's impossible. You make too many decisions to think that they're all going to be perfect. But boy, I have to congratulate him. That is one fine career.
Got 1,200 wins. The one on Sunday, which kind of, I didn't realize that number was coming around the horn for him, and also his 100th NCAA win, which also sort of surprised me. But of course, when you're the head coach for 36 years, those kinds of things happen. But to get back to it, he kind of talked about, he said, it wasn't any coaching that was done in the last 4 or 5 minutes. That was the team willing. And I mean, he said, I've had some great teams. He says, I don't know if I've ever been prouder of a team down the stretch in a game. And that's saying a lot when you've got Christian Leitner and Grant Hill and all these other superstars that have come through Duke. I mean,
I saw them play in the regional in Minneapolis when Chris Leitner and Chris Leitner was there, and then they had what was the point guard that was
Bobby
Hurley, and they played LSU, and LSU had this big center, Shaquille O'Neal, and so I went down and saw the final of that game, and Duke hammered the big guy pretty good.
I believe I was there as well.
Oh, were you?
We didn't know each other at that point, but I believe we were both there at the same time. Women's tournament, they got some double-digit seeds in as well. Besides South Dakota.
Yeah.
So some good stuff there. The women's game. Here's what surprised me: some of these 11 seeds not only hanging in there, but winning them, but then even take down the Yukons. Was only won by 5 points over Belmont.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned. South Dakota winning. Who else won here? Ohio State came as a number 6. So it's just not the 1, 2, 3s and 4s in the women's. It was an interesting weekend basketball.
I'm going to tell you, and I'll bring up a little historical thing. Napoleon one time said that spirit to artillery is as 3 is to 1. The spirit will carry through. These younger schools, they come in, they've had good seasons, they've got 1 or 2 really good athletes. They come in and say, hey, just because we haven't been in this big heavy-duty schedule, we can play, and they can. And so, it's amazing to watch this. There's an awful lot of kids out there that are bucking for scholarships, and there's an awful lot of schools that want to be Division I and be included in this crop. It does an awful lot for the school. It really does.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Cherry wins 68-57. So again, they'll get number 1 Hayfield on Friday afternoon, I believe at noon. I suspect that I'll have to be watching that on Friday afternoon, right?
Yeah.
I can fit that into my schedule.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about high school basketball.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about there?
Well, I read a little article this week from Minnehaha Academy.
Yeah.
And Minnehaha Academy is going after their 5th straight state championship.
It's not going to happen, by the way, because they did lose last night.
Oh, they did.
They did lose last night.
Well, I just took a look and I thought, they had another superstar there. And I mean, I don't want to. Got to be gently on this. If I was in a card game, and Minnehaha Academy was there, I'd want to take account of the cards. I'd want to see just because they're winning an awful lot, and they've been spending top shelf some of the top basketball players in the country.
Correct. They were in 2A.
Yeah.
Where they didn't belong.
Yeah.
They moved up to 3A. Well, Chet and what's that other guy's name? Anyway. The other guy that was there who's playing for Orlando now. And so anyway, now they went back down to 2A this year because, of course, that's where they belong, right? Everybody, Minnehaha Academy belongs in 2A basketball because that's what their number says they should be, even though they, Anyway, they did lose last night. I'm not disappointed.
No, it was just the article that was in.
You can't tell that from my voice.
In the Tribune, and I was laughing. I was just saying, it's not that they have good teams. I mean, there have been great hockey teams. There have been great every kind of football teams. But it's the superstars they keep on popping up with. And how do they, I mean, is there a superstar? What you got? Fingers are rubbing.
You got some money.
Like I say, if I was playing poker, I'd want to know. Take a look at the deck. Because
it's stacked.
That's what I was looking for.
It's stacked. There's no doubt about that. It's one of those things that those private schools, and of course a lot of the schools in the cities, Hopkins is a public school that continues to bring in talent basketball-wise. And keep doing it over and over again. And the State High School League does one of these things that while they're following the rules, of course they're following the rules, right? Everybody can just sell a house here and move 5 miles and be in a new school district and go play for a different team. You don't have that option.
Oh, no,
up here.
in the Minnesota Valley, you got Chaska, you got Chanhassen, which are about 3 or 4 blocks apart from each other, and you go down around a few miles, you go to Shakopee, you go up to the other way, you got Waconia. I mean, there's just all these schools within driving distance, a lot closer than here to Little Fork.
Yeah.
So it's, I just asked the question. And I know that
Mr. Innocent, knowing that he's going to stir the pot on me and I'll let loose.
I like to stir a little bit, but
How stir this pot?
Yeah.
Mankato East.
yeah,
They make it to the state tournament in girls hockey,
yeah,
boys hockey,
Yeah.
girls basketball, and boys basketball.
Uh-huh.
Not too shabby.
no, it's,
Andover makes it in girls hockey, boys hockey, and boys basketball. Yeah. You
well,
start
they're going to
look-
go through a surge, and it's just like, it's some of the schools, they do real well because they're really good schools, and so they, and I'm thinking about Hill and what's the Catholic school in Fridley?
De La Salle?
No, De La Salle.
Tino Grace.
Tino Grace. I mean, these are top shelf schools, and kids want to go to them. And in fact, I said to my daughter one time, she says, if we lived in Duluth, she says, I'd go to Duluth East. And I says, you would not. You'd be going to Marshall for college prep. She looked at me, Marshall? I mean, she would have none of it. These kids want to go to where the good schools are and where the good competition is. I don't blame them for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hermantown went, as long as we might as well finish
Yeah.
the high school basketball. Hermantown goes in Section 7 3A. They snuck by Hibbing 60-59. Hibbing was the #1 seed, missed
Ooh.
3 shots in the final seconds.
Oh.
One apparently a pretty easy bunny that just wouldn't find the bottom of the bucket. So Hermantown ended up losing the #1 seed to Tino Grace on Tuesday. And Pequot Lakes, who came out of Section 7, beat Esco, which I didn't think was, I knew it would be close, but I didn't think Pequot Lakes would beat Esco. After watching Esco, they were an impressive team, but Pequot Lakes lost yesterday to Annandale in 2A basketball.
So who do we have left from the north?
Just Jerry.
That's it.
That's it for a chance to win a state title. So, and of course the girls' state championships were last week, and of
Yeah.
course MIB had a,
They took her in the chin right off the bat.
yeah, they were up 10 points with like 4 minutes left in the
Yes.
game. I want to say something along that line.
And I think it was 11 points, but they were up.
And lost in overtime, and then they absolutely throttled the competition in the consolation round to take 5th place. But with everything else going on last weekend, I probably watched 5 minutes of the state girls basketball tournament, and that's no disrespect to the girls. It just didn't work out with everything else that's going on.
You can only be in one place at a time, and you only have two eyes.
Well, you could have computers and phones, and yeah, there's only so many things you can do. I mean, we haven't talked about the W word from last week, but we still got to talk about NCAA wrestling and NCAA hockey, which were a part of the puzzle over the weekend. Which again, take the eyes away from what you can get done. So, and we put basketball to bed. Or we should talk about the Timberwolves.
We should talk about Timberwolves.
talk about
They
Timberwolves.
dropped one last night or the night before
2
last.
nights ago, yeah.
But they're still bouncing around and playing well, and
got the Phoenix Suns tonight.
They got the Phoenix Suns
They
tonight.
beat the Phoenix Suns tonight at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, then, let's start printing those playoff tickets. Not that we probably shouldn't already, but they took on Dallas the other night. They had moved up to that 6th spot in the Western Conference, which is a
Yeah.
biggie to get out of that play-in game. And they were within a game and a half of Dallas for the 5th spot. And Dallas was up by 16, and then the Wolves came back and had the lead, and then all of a sudden it was just like they couldn't throw it in the ocean. Nothing was going to go down,
Well,
and ended up losing.
for years and years and years, at this point in time, we would look to the Timberwolves to see how far down the standings they would go.
How many ping pong balls we were getting in the lottery,
and,
right?
And the ping pong balls. And I think people are getting used to watching them win. And that's huge for the fans. It's just like, geez, he got 60 points. 60 points. Nobody scored 60 points in this state, maybe since George Mikan. But this is I think this is exciting for basketball, and the other thing, it's, and this came up again. Pro basketball is so good. There are some basketball players. I mean, I'm thinking of Joe Morant from Murray State. It's just like nobody ever heard of Murray State before Morant came, and now he's one of the bigger stars in the NBA. And you watch him play, and you say, how did I not see this kid before? And so that happens, and the cream does come to the top, and the NBA is there. I have every intention this spring, as soon as March Madness is over.
You're going to get serious?
I'm going to get serious and watch some NBA games, because they're all over the place. You can only watch. Well, I can only watch one at a time. But
if you're really going to do it right, you can only watch one.
You can only watch one at a time. Otherwise, you just get the score. But there's some people out there that can play, and I was reassured that there are even some that can play defense. That I have still yet to see, but we'll see what happens.
It's tough. Like I told you before the show started, professionals make mistakes because the other team has professionals too. I mean, they've got good players as well. When they make a bad pass or take a dumb shot or whatever, the other team probably had a little effect on that. It's not like little Johnny dribbling the ball down over there at Falls Heights. He dribbles it off his knee. I mean, that's cute. It doesn't happen in the NBA. Usually somebody forces that to happen.
No, and it's like one of the things. Sometimes the offensive line slaps its hands and turns around, and there's Devarius Smith standing there looking at you.
Right.
And so,
does that mean you want to talk football next?
Well, we should kind of bring up just a couple of things that are going on there. They picked up Devarius Smith, and he is a very fine edge rusher when he's healthy.
So therein lies the crux. Why did the Packers let him go? Was it too much money? Which it very well can be in these times and locations. Obviously, with the salary cap, those are things that do take place. But I think the Vikings were very happy to pick up somebody who can rush the passer. And
yes.
Of course.
And they were in need of a rusher.
If Daniil and Mr. Smith can stay healthy, I like what the Vikings might be able to do on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they were able to pick him up, because I have seen him play when he is together, and he is a very fine defensive lineman, and he runs well. He knocks you over. He can be a great one.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see the Vikings switch out of a 4-3 and play 3-4, which I don't remember the last time that the Vikings didn't play a four-man front and go to the 3-4. So we'll see how things pan out that way. Of course, the Vikings signed a linebacker from Arizona, and they picked up a couple of D-tackle, and we'll see how all things play out in that department. Of course, a couple other football notes. Tyreek Hill was traded from the Chiefs today to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks. A one, a couple of 2s, and a 4 and a 6, I think. 4 and 6, I think, is what it came out. 3 this season and 2 next season. Yeah. That's a boatload of receiver.
Hey, you seen that guy run?
I saw on Twitter, I have to throw this out here, because a guy said, geez, now Miami's got 3 of the best deep threats in the league, and nobody to throw them the football, because Tua can't throw the long ball, and everybody else that they've had cannot throw the long ball. That's interesting. That you could have that much talent go deep, but maybe nobody to throw it to.
No,
of course, Tyreek Hill, you don't necessarily have to throw it deep.
He'll catch it wherever you want it to.
He can catch it at 12 and make it 80.
Yeah.
So, of course, our good friend Aaron Rodgers signed his 3-year, $150 million contract.
Way to go.
Since the last time I think we were on the air. We knew he was going to sign.
Yes,
it was just a matter of for how much. And there's one other NFL thing that I'm supposed to be thinking of here. What in the heck is it? Oh, my goodness. Wow. Oh, the Deshaun Watson. Cleveland, Baker Mayfield leaving. Who knows where he's going to end up. Matt Ryan gets traded to the Colts. Now the Colts and Atlanta got Deshaun, right? I'm getting that right? Get my. He did not. No, he ended up in Cleveland.
He's in Cleveland.
And now we think Baker's probably going to end up in Atlanta. I mean, it seems likely, but of course Cleveland doesn't want to let Baker go because they figure Deshaun Watson is going to get suspended,
go to jail,
and not get to play this year. Did you see his contract?
No.
5 years, $230 million, I think it was.
Jesus.
But hang on, folks. The first year only has like 1.6 million. So the final 4 years, that's 4 years for like 229 million. So that's like 57 million a year.
Because the first year they're not even sure he could play.
Yeah, they're just paying him
To be hang around.
because they don't suspect that he's going to get to play, or if he does, it's going to be very limited. So
Well, we should have got jobs like that.
yeah. Anyway, I think that's it NFL wise. Where shall we go next?
See,
Do we want to go?
let's go Twins. I mean, let's talk
let's go
with them.
Twins.
Yeah. Carlos Correa.
Wow.
Is this a game changer?
In my mind, yes.
Okay.
And here's why. Okay, I'm gonna say this. I watched a little bit of the press conference this morning. Not much because I was just about ready to go on and do the 8 o'clock sports. But legitimately, honestly, I believe, sounded like he wanted to play for the Twins. Now, he's got a contract that he can opt out after the first and second year. So he's going, hey, I'll come here and see what it's like, and if I don't like it, I can leave. That gives a player a lot of leeway. So he signs for 3 years, almost $106 million. But it sounds like he wants to be here. 5th in the AL MVP, and probably the biggest note for me happened during that press conference this morning when he was discussing leaving the Astros, excuse me. He was talking with his agent, and his agent was saying, well, where would you like to go? Who should I start contacting? Who should we be looking to go to? And he says, well, I've hit pretty well at Target Field. And the agent at the press conference said his OPS is 1,200.
Holy cow.
1,200. That's on base plus slugging percentage, folks. So he says, I see the ball really well at Target Field. Now, whether that's because of Twins pitching or not might be a part of the issue. But having said that, likes playing in Target Field, hits the ball well here. So now you got a guy who wants to be here, who was 5th in the AL MVP voting last year, who's won a World Series. Yes, he was part of the cheating scandal, which is a big negative to me. But at the same time, what are we supposed to do? Forgive.
No,
you got to forgive, right?
And my good friend Rusey says, face it, Houston beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. We got to forgive them now.
We got to move on.
They got to move on, and thank them for beating the Dodgers. And so this is.
He's still holding a grudge from 65.
He doesn't like the Dodgers, okay? Yeah. So you take a look at that, and then you see, we've been watching Carlos Correa play for a long time, and he's a great shortstop. And you just think, you just need a shortstop.
I did not realize that they gave a platinum glove to the guy who was the best defense. They give out the golden glove, but they gave out a platinum one to the guy who is the best defensive overall of all those positions. And he won it last year.
Okay.
Bats about 270, hit 26 home runs last year, and can play defense?
Yeah, well, what's the matter with that?
What's wrong with that? And of course, this is after the Twins picked up Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela, and everything else that they've done. Now, it hasn't produced results, mind you, in spring training, but they haven't played these guys really yet. Yesterday was kind of the first time they played a whole bunch of their guys, and ended up losing to Atlanta 4-0. But they were 1-5, and at last check, they were tied with Boston 4-4 going to the 8th inning. Right now, it seems like some of the young pitchers for the Twins aren't quite dialed in, but
it's early.
Let's not panic.
I even hate to bring this up because it sounds. It's as optimistic as I've ever been with a team that didn't have Nelson Cruz, but this might be a pretty good team. I think the pitching staff may come together. They've got some starters.
I don't think Derek Falvey is done yet. That's the thing.
That's the thing. Probably the other thing. Yeah.
Something's going to happen. They're going to find another starter. I don't know who they're going to have to give up. whether that's going to be Royce White, Royce Lewis. See, that's what I did last week. I said Royce White. I want to apologize. Nobody corrected me on that. I appreciate you guys not calling me out on that. Maybe you're not listening close enough. But anyway, Royce White played basketball, by the way. Royce Lewis, does he become expendable? Does he become trade bait for somebody out there? He was a number 1 overall pick 4 or 5 years ago. All of a sudden, now that you've got a shortstop hanging around, or do they say, well, Carlos Correa only sticks around for 1 season, and now Lewis is ready to go in 2023? Who knows?
It's hard to say, but at least you got somebody to cover shortstop for a year. You got to take that with what it's worth and go with it. No doubt about it.
Apparently going to cover it pretty well.
Yeah, well.
So, yeah, the Twins obviously haven't. Obviously, the Vikings made some splashes with a little bit of splashes with what they've done in picking up players, and of course that's nothing compared to what we saw that the Wild did this week.
I just got another report before I left today. Ash Barty is leaving tennis.
Yeah.
And somebody said, well, she might just be tired, and she's done this before. And
yeah, so she put out in her tweet, Instagram post, whatever it was, that right now I am physically tired, I'm mentally drained, and I really don't want to do this anymore. And you look at what's happened with Naomi Osaka over the past 12, 14 months.
Yeah.
You look at with what's going on with other athletes and the abuse they take online, on Twitter, on social media, and it's a shame that the sports, the games that I love watching so much, that there's so much that Twitter and all these other places have given these people free rein to say whatever they want. I mean, obviously it was out there, but the players usually didn't hear it. Yeah, you get booed at the stadium, et cetera, but it's gone to a new level. And the other night when Cat goes for 60, it was, well, he has never won a big game. Well, okay, that's true, but does that take away from the fact that he went for 60? Does it that he hasn't won a big game? Nobody was saying that he was the new Michael Jordan. Nobody said it. He scored 60 points.
Pretty good effort.
Pretty good, yeah. And so it just seems to me that people are always out there trying to, I don't know, they're just out there bitter. It's tough. Sometimes it's tough to read Twitter about these kinds of things, because with what the Wild did over the last couple of days, and getting Marc-Andre Fleury and all of this and sending this person there and whatever else. Yeah, obviously people are entitled to their opinions. I understand that. That's what we're doing right here. We're giving our opinions. But I mean, when I say that I hate the Dodgers or I hate the Lakers or whatever, I mean, it's all in fun.
No.
To me, when you're berating a woman's tennis player or a men's basketball player, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't pan out for me.
Well, I'll tell you, I thought Ash Barty's performance at the Australian Open was really a Gable Steveson type approach. She dominated and beat up everybody, and
I think that's what makes the retirement all that much more shocking.
With that kind of domination, she should be physically and mentally tired. I'm sure it took an awful lot of effort, but I was amazed. I think she's just a remarkable athlete.
I think the biggest thing that people don't realize, and I didn't realize, that when she played at Wimbledon last year, she hadn't been home in like 6 months, back to Australia, where she's from, because of if she went back into Australia, then she wasn't going to be able to get back out again and all that stuff. So she basically lived on the road for like 9-10 months. I mean, you all can say, well, they're professional tennis players. Well, but they still get to go home and see family and do whatever. But I found it interesting that somebody in one of their tweets or Instagram messages to her after she announced her retirement last night, that they said, is professional golf in your future? Because apparently she's an outstanding golfer as well.
Did not know that.
And, yeah, I did not know that either. And so is this something that she starts messing around with? Maybe it's a different game. Now you start working your way up through the professional ranks, and then maybe in 3-4 years, we see this happen, that she's a golfer. But the other thing that what I personally see happening, and again, this is a guess, Justine Henin did this in 2008, walked away, top of the game, number 1 in the world, 25 years old, left the game, and then came back. Kim Kleisters left the game, came back. So this itch to compete, I think, is still too close for Ash Barty. Won't probably be in 2022, maybe not even in 2023. But I think you'll see Ash Barty come back and make another run at some point playing tennis. But right now, I completely understand what she's going through. You feel beat down. You need a change, and you need to go do something else to refresh and live your life happily.
Yeah.
And so I hate to see her go again. I think she could win multiple majors. But yeah, so let's talk the Wild.
Let's talk the Wild.
They went crazy, crazy Bill, Wild Bill. What do you want to call him? Bill Guerin, GM for the Wild.
You mean that guy with a smile on his face on TV last night? The other night?
You know, it's a calculated gamble when you do this kind of thing. You go out and you make, 5 trades, I think I can count off the top of my head.
You only have a team of 16 people.
And you look at it and you go, okay, how many parts do I have? One of the parts was this McBain kid from Boston College who did not want to play for the Wild. Apparently they didn't rate him as high as he thought he should be, so they traded him away for a second round pick. Goodbye, good riddance as far as I'm concerned. If you really don't want to play for us, let's find someplace that you think thinks wants you and go play there. Of course, they get Jost last week from Colorado, who you trade a 4th line center for a 4th line center, and you're kind of like, all right, we just kind of traded a guy who was disgruntled with a guy in Sturm, who I think was pretty happy, but we'll see how this all pans out. And then the Wild pulled the trigger on Delorier from Anaheim, a guy who can bring the fight.
Oh, he looks like a boxer.
Gives the knuckle sandwiches. Basically said, I'll be happy to protect my boys. I'll go take the 5 minutes in the penalty box. I have no problem with that. That gives the Wild an edge that we haven't had since we had Boogie, man. Boogar, man, he's been gone for
long time.
For quite a while. The Wild haven't had an enforcer like that. That changes the attitude of a team. All of a sudden, Marcus Foligno, who has some scoring talent, doesn't have to go out there and be the enforcer, which I think he's a big guy, but I don't think it's really...
Well, he's got 16 or 17 goals. You want him on the ice, not in the penalty box.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, of course, they pulled the big trigger on getting Marc-Andre Fleury from the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2nd-round pick. Could be a 1st-round pick, depending upon how things go. And, of course, I said to Uncle Paul, I said, hey, what's this going to do to Talbot's confidence? Where does Cam Talbot go? Well, what does Cam Talbot do first game out after the trade? Gets his 32nd career shutout. The boys played well in front of him. He even admitted that. Gave him good lanes to see and everything else. I hope Talbot continues to think about it that way. I would guess Fleury gets to start Thursday night against Vancouver because you don't want him sitting around either.
No. I think they're going to get a 50-50 draw, and who's ever hot right now is going to go in. Are they not preparing for playoffs?
I think they're playing for playoffs, and here's I think maybe what I told you.
Yeah.
Fleury's 37 or 38. Cam Talbot is either 33 or 34, I think, years of age. You'd like to think that you could have a Vasilevsky from Tampa Bay or Patrick Waugh from the 1980s who can go out there and play all 25 games in the Stanley Cup.
And these guys can't.
And I don't think either one of these guys can.
And I don't
think they're going to have to.
No, and and keep in mind, a lot of times, maturity for goalies isn't like it is for forwards and defensemen. It takes a little while, and there's a lot of time these goalies really don't come into their own till late 20s or early 30s. So, I mean, right now, Talbot is playing like a kid, and he's just all over the place. And I mean, I watched the other night getting his saves. They weren't just a stick on the puck. These saves were remarkable. And so he is right now. He's hot. If Fleury can get like that, then I think having two hot goaltenders is better than only having one.
I agree. Like I said, having the enforcer, even Dumba said after the game when he was being interviewed the other night, basically said, I couldn't nap today thinking about how excited we were, the team was, that we were getting these guys, and that psyche for professional players of, well, they didn't think we were good enough, or are we making a move to win the Stanley Cup? I think the players are looking at it as it's a move to win the Stanley Cup now, which I thought they wouldn't do. I thought they would try to wait it out a year and see what was going, but Bill Guerin surprised us all and made the move. And if you think about it, even if it is a first-round pick for a chance to really make a run, and Fleury had played for Guerin back at Pittsburgh, there's confidence there, there's comfort.
Well, you take a look, are the pieces there to put this together? And they've determined that they are. And so, I mean, the next month or so is really going to be exciting watching this team come together.
Mike Bolstad would be the first to say that the defensemen for the Wild are too small. That's their one drawback. Well, every team's got to have a weak point, and right now that might be it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Dumba's not very big, but I'll tell you, he can be annoying.
He can be annoying. He's, I think he's going to get even cockier with Delorier now there to protect him in case things go awry.
Yeah.
So, but the Wild playing good hockey. I've given up the fact that they can win the Central Division because Colorado's 13, 14 points out in front of them right now, maybe even more than that. So to catch them in the final 18, 19, 20 games here probably doesn't seem likely. That's too much to give up, but keep playing good hockey, and when April 29th rolls around, that's the last day of the regular season. Hopefully we're sitting with a number 2 seed and everybody is quaking in their boots at the fact that they might have to play the Minnesota Wild in the playoffs.
This caused a lot of excitement.
Oh.
I mean, just the change. They probably made more changes than any other hockey team in the league. And, and so when you see this, you just they kept on coming, and your face got wider, and and any time you make this kind of shakeup, possibilities arise.
Yeah, like I said, Twins are Wild. Who's made the bigger splash or splashes?
Hard to say.
Over the last week. I guess I don't really care which one did. It's just been very exciting to be a Minnesota fan over the last week and a half with what's gone on with free agency in the NFL. And that was Devontae Adams leaving the Packers for the Raiders. That was the other one I could not think of earlier. And I'm sure you guys should have screamed it louder at the screen because 36 hours later would have come. Anyway, somebody finally got it into me. That one shocked me.
It did catch my eye as well.
Apparently somebody had ticked him off. Was it Aaron Rodgers or somebody else with the Packers that chased him out of there?
I don't know, but you'd figure that, hey, if Rodgers doesn't like receivers, he's in trouble.
Yeah, he's shown that I can throw to anybody, but obviously having a superstar, maybe the top receiver or one of the top 2 or 3 receivers.
You certainly have to say that.
But now Oakland all of a sudden, see, there we go, Las Vegas, all of a sudden becomes that much more formidable. And of course with Hill leaving Kansas City, is that changing the balance of the AFC West? We'll see.
And I tell you, this is where the draft's really going to come about. This should be a pretty interesting draft this year.
It is going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's only 6 weeks away.
It is.
Start preparing, folks. Never too early to start. We got to talk college hockey before we get to your wrestling things.
We worried about the wrestling. I was going to ask you something else, but.
So we've got the college hockey. The NCAA tournament starts on Thursday, which is tomorrow as we film this. And of course, Minnesota got 4 teams in. And of course, we could address the CCHA debacle that nearly occurred with Mankato State and Bemidji State, where Mankato won in overtime, and then they didn't win in overtime, and then they won in overtime. Of course, with the review, and then the team celebrated. They handed out the trophy. They put the hats on. They went to the locker room, and then the commissioner Don Lucia was watching more film, and they realized that, hey, the goal was lifted up. It was not a goal, so let's get these teams back out here. Let's do this right, which I thought was a ballsy call because Lucia basically said, if I don't bring them back onto the ice, I'm wrong. If I bring them back onto the ice, I'm wrong. Well, I think you're less wrong by bringing them onto the ice and doing it right, because this is what they did, and Mankato ended up winning. ending Bemidji State season. It would have been nice to see Bemidji make it again. They would have been nice to have 5 Minnesota teams to cheer for, but we've got one in each region, and of course Mankato State is the number 2 overall seed.
Oh, Bemidji will be back. They've hung in there the last 5 or 6 years. They've got a good foundation for programs. A lot of people coming to Minnesota to play hockey.
Absolutely.
So they'll be fine.
Mankato's 35-5, as I said, coming into the 2nd seed, overall seed. They're number 1, of course, in their region, and then we've got UMD that snuck in as the number 5 after they won the NCHC with 2 shutouts of Denver and Western Michigan, who are both rated above them, 3 and 4 overall seeds, and Duluth now the number 5 seed, and of course Minnesota comes in at about 6 or 7. They're in a bracket. They got a tough sell. They got Massachusetts, the defending national champions. Not that they're the same team, because they ain't.
No.
But they're playing in Massachusetts, which makes it difficult for the Gophers. And then of course St. Cloud State snuck in there. And I say snuck in there only because they didn't play. They were only one of the few teams that didn't play last weekend that made it into the tournament. And they get Quinnipiac on Friday. So there's 1 Minnesota team in each of the 4 regions. So it's possible that the Frozen Four could have 4 Minnesota teams.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be fun.
Yeah,
that would be interesting. Of course, there's lots of UND fans out there that I had to listen to last weekend at the XL Energy Center on Friday. Here's the scary part, that just a little whatever. I'm sitting where Eli and Nita and I were sitting, and there was a group of fans sitting in front of us. It was 3 ladies and 2 guys. One guy didn't have any garb on, but it was apparent that he was cheering for UMD against Denver. Okay, nice job. Him and Eli were having a good conversation. The girls had their UMD stuff on, except for one. She had her North Dakota stuff on. I'm like, okay, two versus 1. That's good. And the guy on the other end had his UMD stuff on. So I'm like, hey, it's good to have UMD fans around. As soon as the UMD hockey game got done, off come the UMD stuff, on comes the North Dakota stuff. Oh no, they were true North Dakota fans, folks. That's who they were there cheering for.
I've heard of that.
I would say on Friday night there was about 8,000 people at the X, and about 7,900 of them were North Dakota fans.
And that's where my friend Brucey always says, bring back the university and the Minnesota and North Dakota game. It packed the arena. It's the only game that does, and it's.
Here's what was reported about the Gopher Michigan championship, Big Ten championship hockey game. The most people ever to watch a University of Minnesota hockey game at Mariucci.
Really?
The most ever. Now, maybe they meant the most.
But that
at a
Mariucci arena's been there for a long time.
It's been there for a long time. They got the crowd to come back. Of course, Michigan, I'm sure, had their share of fans there. Michigan did beat them 4-3, and Michigan's the number 1 overall seed. They obviously look tough. But here's the thing, folks. We know that in the NCAA tournament, obviously it's a one-and-done type of thing. American International says, look, we got a chance to beat Michigan. Hockey's a little bit more of that kind of game.
Sure.
And of course, everybody remembers, I think, St. Cloud State from 4 years ago, I think. That was the number 1 seed and lost to number 16. And that always puts the number 1 seeds on high alert. And we'll see how it happens. The best thing that they did, George, here's the NCAA hockey always played semifinals one day, the final the next day. Not this year. They gave them a day of rest in between, just like the basketball teams get, which seems to make all kinds of sense to me. You got 2 teams that are hanging around for a day. You're going to get a better quality product, but the better part of that middle day, you got 4 games on the first day, and then you got 6 the next day. Well, everybody's like, is this a final? Is this a semifinal? Because they can't keep track of what it is.
Which one is?
Now they got semifinal Thursday, semifinals on Saturday, and now, hey, we got our finals Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and then Saturday and Sunday. So the NCAA got smart. ESPN must have said, look, we can't cover all this.
No.
Let's do this right. Let's spread it over 4 days instead of 3 days, and let's do this right. So big day tomorrow, 4 games tomorrow, 4 games Friday, and then 2 on Saturday and Sunday. And again, I'm looking forward to it. The Dogs play at 2 o'clock on Thursday. And let's hope that they can continue to play as well as they did, again, with 2 shutouts in the NCHC. Ryan Fenty was pretty good, but the defense in front of him was outstanding.
Well,
as well.
it really was. And then, and it came up like, what do you have to do to beat this team? And they're up 2-0, and Denver is good. I mean, they were buzzing all over that net, and UMD just kind of tightened it up.
That's the key. That's the key about UMD. You have to score first against UMD. You got to break through and try to get them out of their defensive.
Do you ever notice that Coach Sandlin's team get pretty good by the end of the season, especially their defense?
I noticed that.
And all of a sudden, and he's smiling on that bench because he knows, he can see what's coming here.
Well, they only scored 5 goals last weekend.
Yeah.
2 games they scored 5 goals, but they win 2 games with a goal separation of 5 goals. So they're not going to light it up. I mean, for UMB right now to score 4 goals in this tournament would be a shock to me.
It would.
They get Michigan Tech. I don't know. I don't think I said that. The CCHA team that didn't play last week but made it in, and we'll see how it all pans out. It's
exciting.
It's going to be fun, and we've got that going for us. So, all right. Looking up at that clock, we're getting close to that hour mark. We better talk wrestling.
We can talk a little bit of wrestling, and it won't take long. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days of just absolutely gruesome wrestling down in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I mean, you wrestle 2 matches, and then you wrestle 2 more, and then you wrestle a final. So you get 5 matches. And,
if you're lucky, that's all you get.
And so Minnesota, I tell you, we'll get to Stevenson a little bit, but both in the Big Ten tournament and in the NCAA's, Patrick McKee lost the first round.
What's he doing?
And comes back and gets 3rd. And I mean, I know how frustrated you were, like he was doing it, and he wasn't moving, his feet weren't moving, he kind of quit, and all of a sudden, like somebody slapped him upside the head, and all of a sudden there he is wrestling for 3rd, in the medal round, and so it's nice to see guys. That's old-fashioned Minnesota wrestling. And then Stevenson, I have never seen anybody dominate the sport the way he has. I really don't know that I've ever seen a Minnesota Gopher dominate their sport. Not since the great Nagurski. We just haven't seen this kind of a wrestler before anywhere.
Yeah, I hate to say this. I don't. You're the wrestling whatever to me. But I felt like he let everybody down. He didn't dominate the last 3 matches, and I know they're championship matches and you're getting to the high test, but I didn't feel like he dominated those matches
like he did the first 2.
Like he should have. Obviously, the first 2 matches were against lesser opponents, but
if he would have wrestled each one of those opponents a few days apart,
it would have been different.
It would have been different. And I think not only was he getting tired, but his opponents were getting tired, and things were moving a lot slower. That first round, man, he was just hitting them. And his opponents, I mean, he's lost 1 takedown this year.
Yeah, when it happened, the whole place just went.
Oh,
it went dead silent. Holy crap! Could he get pinned? Could it be over?
Could it be over?
Yeah,
and the guy that he was wrestling in the finals, Colton Schultz. Boy, I'll tell you, he's a cowboy from Oklahoma, and boy, is he a cowboy. In fact, he could fit in as the cow. He's huge and he's strong, and he just like if you wanted to have a cowboy work in your cowboy ranch, you'd pick him.
Yeah.
And he went out there and bammed into him. And that's the 2nd best college wrestler in the country, supposedly, and and he got 5 points. He got a takedown. He got 3 escapes. Now, that's all you're ever going to get against him, because you're not going to take him down twice. And so he didn't blow everybody away out there, but he enjoyed it enough to take off his shoes, put them in the middle of the floor, and do a backward spring.
And then he had to put the shoes back on to go onto the podium, which I didn't realize you had to do.
I didn't know that either.
He had to put the shoes back on to go on the podium. I guess that's the rule.
Yeah.
Because wrestling's got all kinds of rules. Like you got a handshake, right?
You got a handshake. It's just like, yeah.
2 weeks ago, we sat here and we talked about the fact that Michigan won the Big Ten championship. How shocked I was. They edged Penn State and Iowa.
Yeah.
Penn State made no mistakes in the.
Well, and the thing is about Michigan, there's 5 or 6 teams from other places that are going to put dents in your
absolutely.
work.
But Penn State didn't get those dents.
No, and they didn't. And they had five guys in the finals.
And 5 guys win.
And 5 guys win, and they only have 10 on your team. So if you didn't say you took a third in the NCAA's, who are you? But Penn State has such a wrestling culture in mind. It right now is the liveliest, and Cale Sanderson has done this. He's really built what he has done is take off where Dan Gable left, and now he has that kind of dominance. But I wasn't surprised that Michigan couldn't take him. Michigan had 2 in the finals, and their big heavyweight had gotten beaten earlier.
Yeah, Mason Pierce. I think kind of a disappointment, if I could say that.
Yeah, he has had a disappointing season, and he just couldn't keep up with Stevenson, and Stevenson's been taking him apart forever. And he wrestled Kivlet at heavyweight at the semifinals. Well, he's from Simile High School, and so Minnesota is not only putting good people on basketball teams, hockey teams, football teams. They're putting on pretty good wrestling teams too.
Yeah.
So this is a hot spot for sports right now, and you have to congratulate those that are involved in this because it's good.
I have to make a comment and see what your thoughts are on it, because in the wrestlebacks on Saturday morning they were talking about these guys wrestling for 3rd and 5th and 7th and whatever else, and the tables. We know how close the tables are in wrestling a lot of times. But they were very close because they were in a hockey arena in Detroit. And so even the announcer mentioned, we need to have more room here for 3rd and 5th place matches. We shouldn't have to be worrying about a takedown where the guy still's got his feet inside.
Well, and they were pretty close. And they were really close to the table.
And so, to me, the point I'm trying to make is, are we going to stop seeing arenas used for national championships, and we are going to go to stadiums like US Bank and these other indoor stadiums like in Indy and blah blah blah, because now you don't have these tables so close. Now you can spread them out a little bit, and you got a little extra room. And
you have to actually have the facilities, the clocks, and the tables for 8 mats, and every once in a while you should probably have some place for wrestlers. So but it seemed cramped in there. It really did.
It was very cramped.
I
thought it was too cramped. When they had all 8 mats out, I thought it was too tight.
Yeah.
So there I am advocating for the big stadium so that it'll come back to Minneapolis, because
we can go then.
Then we can go.
There were some matches. There was. Again, there was some pretty low seeds winning national championships, but every match was just a lip ripper, and these guys come out and they're, and I also determined cauliflower ears is a genetic disease, because their dads go over and they got their ears all mashed up, and their dad has the same kind of ears. You go over with Grandpa, they're pretty clogged up too. So this is I've determined cauliflower is a.
Eli's a big Gable Stevenson fan, by the way.
Well, he should be. So am I.
It was funny because when I told him, I said, "No, look, I was watching the wrestling on my phone because we were watching UMD on the TV, so I got the wrestling here." And I said, all right, Gable Stevenson's coming on. We're switching it over. And he watched pretty much the whole match. I mean, for a 7-year-old, that was pretty good. But when I told him, he says, is he the champion? I said, he's the champion. And he was going to turn away, and I'm like, you're going to miss the backflip. And that was it. He wanted to see the backflip.
Yeah, so did I.
Had to see the backflip. And
I'm going to watch WWE after he starts doing that. He and his brother are going to have a tag team thing. Who knows where this is going to go? But
WrestleMania is only a week or 2 or so away, whenever it is.
Is he wrestling it in?
I would guess he's going to make an appearance, I would guess, somehow, some way. Whether it's coming in and breaking up a match, or maybe him and Brock Lesnar get together, old Gophers uniting to form would that be a fun? front to watch. Brock in his old age.
It'd really be fun to work out with those guys.
So,
But I got a question for you.
One question.
And it's been brought up. The review of the basketball games and how much time the referees are spending over reviewing and how often they do it. And it's kind of like, I mean, they are spending an awful lot of time on that review camera. Is there anything you can do about that?
I always, here's how I kind of look at it. The NFL went through their review process. They started light. College football started light.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we were getting these extraordinarily long reviews. Okay, and we still are getting some of those. But now they've refined the process. They've gotten better at it. They know the angles. The referees know the angles. I think the college referees are still getting used to this.
Okay.
I think they're trying to get it too right. I think they're looking at it for too long. I think, you still got to give it the eye test. You don't want to screw it up. Obviously, you've had the review and you've still screwed it up. I think sometimes they've got to put a clock on it. They've got to have sitting there and say, look, if you can't make a decision in 90 seconds or 2 minutes, then it's got to be the call.
Yeah, some of these are going 5 and 6 and 7 minutes, and that's
it's too much. I think, again, it's a process that has to be. You got to go through it all. But I think in the future it will be better. It will be better. Again, they seem to be stopping it for some things that maybe don't have to be stopped. But again, you have to go check it because that's the way it is. And so TV doesn't mind it. They get in some commercials.
They take
keep
a break.
you hanging on in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So CBS and their partners have to be very happy with how things have gone. They've got their upsets and they've got their number one seeds, some still in there. And
Okay.
What else? Anything?
I got nothing more on my list. I could talk about Caitlin Clark, but I can't remember who she played for.
Caitlin Clark. Oh man, I still can't believe Iowa choked that baby away.
She did, and I saw a picture of her afterwards, and she did not perform well, and she knew it, and she was crushed.
I'll bet.
She was crushed.
Women's World Curling going on right now. Watching that from a distance, and of course they'll take a few days off, and then the men's will get started. So we'll be talking a little curling, and of course the World Match Play golf. Men's got started today. It is Wednesday, and I don't necessarily like the format that they've got going on now, but we won't badger that. We'll just let it be. And then, of course, the Masters is only a couple weeks away.
It is only a couple weeks away, and you know why I like watching the Masters? It reminds me of summer. And, and did you like watching the I don't care about them, but the flowers, the green, the azaleas, I can smell them already. I wouldn't know azalea.
One year I will get there, hopefully before I die.
I hope,
even if it's just for a practice round. I don't even necessarily just go walk the course while the azaleas are blooming, and to say I walked all the right places. I saw it all in person. I saw how slanted the fairways are because they say the TV doesn't do them justice.
Well, they'd say, is Frake with you? Yeah, he's in the cart coming behind me.
I'm dragging him with me as we go along. Oh,
okay,
man.
pal, well,
wow. That's a full show, folks.
Time in sports this weekend. There's lots of it.
Basketball, hockey. We don't have the wrestling, but
the wrestling's gone, and Sue said that my depression was over pretty much by Monday morning. So, but there'll be another season. It's just really hard to see a guy like Gabe Stevenson not crawl into that Gopher uniform again. But there's a tail end to everything, and that's
12.8 inches of snow here in the Falls. If you aren't from International Falls and you didn't get dumped on this time, you missed out on a doozy.
Hey, listen, old folks, don't shovel either. It's heavy as hell.
It's heavy. Thanks, everybody.